Before we actually start the meeting. First is a 5-year service award for police officer Stephen Yeager. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you very much. And we've got another 5-year for Brenda Pemberton. I don't see Brenda anywhere. Okay, we'll get that to her later. And we've got another one for a, what was a busy day 5 years ago. This is for John Robinson, who's got strep throat at home. So maybe that's it. But anyway, so he's not here. I hope he's not here either. So, and we've got one more. This is a very special presentation. This one is the Oklahoma Municipal League Honor Roll of Service for Mr. Philip Stowell. This is 25 years of service, and this is combined from Claremore, Collinsville, and Bethany. Please come on up here. This one comes with a little pin also, and I'm not going to pin it on you, so. But anyway, this is a big deal. Congratulations. There you go.
Good evening, everybody. I call to order the Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, February 6, 2018. Please rise for the invocation and the flag salute. Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you'll direct your attention over to our left on the top row, Mr. Glenn Templin will be leading our flag salute. I'll tell you a little bit about Mr. Templin. As a boy, not so long ago, in 1955, he moved to Bethany and he didn't leave. Mr. Templin operated a welding shop and then served as a mechanic on a Jeep shop on 39th Street for 25 years there. Lastly, I just want to take a moment to thank him for his service in the U.S. Army. He served 8 years in the U.S. Army. So, Mr. Templin, if you would lead us in the flag salute, we would certainly appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it is one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in this country and to live in this state and to live in this city. We thank you for the family of Bethany, and we ask that this evening and every day that you would allow us to make wise decisions, you would guide us, and you would help us to lead the citizens and this city into our greatest days thus far. We thank you, Father God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Item 1 tonight is the consent docket, items A through C. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have any questions, or we ready to cast our votes? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is a presentation of proposed sculpture for the Bethany Library by Scott Stearman, an exterior public artist.
I'm not Scott Stearman, but I wish I was.
The Public Art Selection Subcommittee of the Library Committee of the City Council began meeting last summer to draft the request for proposals for the large exterior art piece on the north entrance of the new library, and I'm hoping you're all watching it go up. And then a 65-foot long by 6.5-foot high interior art installation. So some of the committee members are here tonight, but I want to recognize all of them for the great job they did. Marcia Feisel is here. So would you stand, Marcia? She is the former art chair from Southern Nazarene University and is president of the Bethany Improvement Foundation. Rachel Bowler-Jack, owner of Coming Deer Studio in downtown Bethany, was on the committee. Janice Gunter is here, and Janice is an interior designer and also member of the Bethany Arts and Culture Board. Anthony Heron, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Metropolitan Library System. Morgan Jones, Metropolitan Library System Planning and Assessment Director, and she was also with Dewberry at the beginning of the project, so that helped a lot in knowing colors and everything else. Erin Bedford is here, and Erin is the Bethany Library Manager. Watzel Carlson is the Bethany representative on the Metropolitan Library System Commission. And then J.D. Cox served to represent the city. I represented the city council. And then Robert McCutcheon stepped in for the final selection. So we quickly recognized Morgan's expertise in writing the RFQs. So I'll credit her for much of that language in the document. But we're grateful to David Davis and Todd Olberding for providing the legal language and the attachments. You probably saw the call for artists in the Tribune and perhaps in the Journal Record, but we had 22 requests for qualification packets, and there were 11 proposals submitted by the deadline. We looked at all of those, the committee reviewed the proposals, and we narrowed the number of finalists to 4. And then on January 19th, those 4 presented to the full committee and brought mock-ups of their proposals for our selection. We unanimously chose the 2 artists that you are going to see tonight and the works that they are presenting. So Scott Stearman will be presenting the exterior art piece, which is a bronze, and he will explain it much better than I could. And Nick's is for a 65-foot interior wall that is 6.5 feet high. So I now introduce Scott Stearman to come and show you his piece of work. I love it.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's I wish I was Arleta Harris. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, it's really an honor to stand here today and speak to you about an art piece that's going to be part of the community. When I started working on this, I was thinking about, first and foremost, the story that we want to tell. And I started thinking about a library and libraries I've experienced in my life in Coffeyville, Kansas, and Springfield, Ohio, and Detroit, and Bethany, Oklahoma. Libraries that have traditionally, in my life, I've looked at as the repository of knowledge in a community. If you want to know something, this is where you go. And a lot of times now, you want to be together. You go to the library. This is where our community tends to gather. The sculpture that I want to present to you is really a whimsical scene representing the library as a character that stepped out of the pages of literature. If you look at him closely, you think, I haven't seen a guy like that walking down 39th Street. This must be a character. And he is. He's a storyteller. And so the name of the sculpture that I have proposed for the library is called Storytime. It's this character who represents the library, telling a great story to an inquisitive, listening child. On his lap, I don't know how to show you this because it's so small compared to where you all are. I don't know, should I roll it in front of the council so you can see it, but then I'll be away from the microphone. And
How could Barry
Okay.
show it from home?
That'll work.
you want me to hold it up right here?
We want to get it on television too. Where's the camera?
You can bring it up here and then,
You can kind of show it to them and bring it back. I'll hold it up for the camera. So the storyteller is opening a book, and the book is labeled the Book of Knowledge. Remember, he is the personification of a library, and so he's opening the Book of Knowledge for this child who really represents our community. On the page of the book are the words, "Never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which we were born." So there's lots of symbolism on this sculpture. The young girl is listening closely, and she stands on her tiptoes like she's hanging on the words that the storyteller is telling. I'm going to hold this up so you guys can see this. There's a kitten that looks over her shoulder and is looking at the book. She's looking at him, but the kitten is looking at the book. It's an image of curiosity. This happens every day in our library. The storyteller sits on a haphazard stack of books. These are not books that are on display like some library that's dusty from misuse or lack of use. These are books that have been read. These are books that have been handled. And instead of a bench, the storyteller sits on great works of literature from history. Not only from history, but there are great children's books in here. And there are books that have a direct Oklahoma connection. And the library committee is going to help me define what those titles are, but every book will have the title and the author. So, do you think Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck will probably make the cut? I think it's going to be in here. The sculpture holds a lot of symbolism, a lot of symbolic details. You see, there's a scissor tail flycatcher sitting on his shoulder. And if you don't have your new car tags, you soon will know about the scissor tail flycatcher. He has a feather in his hat band. It was one way I thought, in addition to the volumes that could be part of the stack, it was one way I thought maybe we could just kind of give a nod to the native people of Oklahoma. On his lapel is the Oklahoma rose. He's telling a story. He has his hand on the Book of Knowledge, and he has opened it. There's a big latch on the book. He's unlocked it, and he's opened it. Remember, this is the library, unlocking and opening knowledge for our community. His watch, right here, his pocket watch sits next to him, and it's open. And it is set to 8:18 p.m. Military time, 2018. 2018. It speaks about the date of the new library. It speaks about the date of the sculpture. I'll talk about that in a minute. There are two mice back here. This is part of the whimsy. This is part of the fun of exploring the sculpture and discovering little details and fun little things. Kids, come over here. Grandpa wants to show you something. Two mice right here are working as hard as they can to push the book Stuart Little to the top of the stack. There's no great profound reason for that except it's fun and it makes you smile. This is part of the whimsy. This is the joy of community. This is the joy of what happens in a library. The scene represents the past, a character who seemingly has stepped out of the past. He has the crooked top hat. He sits in the present and he's speaking to the future. So we have the past, the present, and the future. There's an interactive component here. A small child would be able to sit on his lap while Grandpa and Grandma post a picture to Facebook. Bethany, Oklahoma goes all over the world. A child could stand right here. The books are stacked like stairs. A child could climb and stand right here and look over the shoulder of the storyteller. We're going to expand the book bench a little bit this way, so there's room over here for somebody to sit or stand if they would like. So we're telling a good story. His walking stick, it actually functions as a handhold if somebody decides they want to climb up here for a picture, but it's also his walking stick, which I will talk about in a minute, but the words of the state song are carved down the face of the stick. Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. It's carved right down the face of the stick. Okay, this next piece, this next little detail, this is for me. My granddad lived here. My mom and dad went to school here. They were met here. The reason I exist is because Bethany existed. They met here. My dad was a pastor. My granddad was a pastor. Bethany has a history of a foundation of faith. It's part of the thread that runs through the community. So I took it upon myself. Right back here, it's not big. It's not the biggest book in the stack. Hopefully it's the most well-read. Little Bible sits back here. It's not part of the stack. It's almost like maybe the storyteller's been looking at that for a reference, and he just set it down to tell his story. I designed something into this that will be fun for visitors. Sure, it's whimsical, but I thought there's enough going on here. We could create a treasure hunt for kids. They go into the library, they go up to the main desk, I want a treasure hunt. I want a treasure hunt sheet, and they get this little piece of paper that has blanks. And they come back to the sculpture and they discover and interact and fill in the blanks, 10, maybe 15 questions. And the library committee is going to help me identify what those are. But here's what my first draft looks like. What is the name of Boss Mouse? This guy right here is in charge. He has a little name tag that's about, you will have to get on your hands and knees to read it, but his name is Andy. It's a shout out to Andrew Carnegie. What's the name of Boss Mouse? Andy. How could you fix the storyteller's coat? They'll have to walk around and they'll have to look I got it, I got it, I got it. He has 3 buttons on this sleeve. He has 2 buttons on this sleeve. In military time, what's the date of the library? 2018. Oklahoma's native people walked a long way in this book. Somewhere in this book is the Trail of Tears, right? One whale of a tale. Moby Dick is somewhere in the stack. They'll have to find it. Add the number of the words by Einstein. Stand like curious children. Add the number of the words by Einstein, plus the number of the storyteller's buttons, minus the number of shoes. Boss Mouse has boots. It's a trick question. If they subtract 4, it won't be right. They have to subtract 6. So it's a little math thing. You could sit in the shade of this book. Somewhere in this stack, maybe there is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. The Book of Unhappy Fruit, The Grapes of Wrath, will be somewhere in this stack. The storyteller leans on this song. I already told you, Oklahoma is on his cane, is on his walking stick. And the final question will be written on the headband of his hat. And it's for children. Name 3 things the library does for us. And so they think about, what does a library do for me? And they fill out that piece of paper. And Arlita, you'll have to decide this, but I'm thinking if they bring it in, there's probably a Tootsie Roll or something. Yeah. Something. So there's a whole suggestion of books that can be part of the scene. The little girl, she's on her tiptoes. But it's the story of the storyteller. It's the name of the sculpture is Story Time. And it will be an interactive sculpture that will get touched, it will get climbed on, and the new Bethany Library will be on Facebook for years and years and years, because I have young kids in my family who I know will come over here to take a picture with the storyteller. And so that's the concept. And Mr. Mayor, I have handouts that outline a lot of what I've said. It also has a budget breakdown. Pretty much everything I gave to the committee when I presented this idea to the committee, I prepared to give to you. Would you like me to?
Yes, please. That would be great.
So that's the story. I love a good story.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
And the funding for this sculpture is in the GO bond, the library's GO bond. So it's already funded. We don't need to raise money for it. Nick, are you ready? Scott's sculpture is on the exterior. As you go in the driveway from 35th, you will be facing the sculpture in front of the pond, and then on the left will be the All Abilities Playground, on the right will be the new library. So it will be a focal point as you come into the new library. Nick Baer's piece will go on the interior of the library. There's a 65-foot long wall. It's 12 feet from the floor, and it is 6.5 feet high. So this is a major piece as well. And Nick, tell us a little bit about you, your background and your attachment to Bethany, and then explain your piece. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about my work with you guys. So my name is Nick Baer. I have a Bachelor's of Fine Arts and a Master's in Education from the University of Central Oklahoma. Also have a Master's of Fine Arts from Kansas State University. I've dedicated a large majority of my life to art education. I've taught at Southern Nazarene University for several years as a professor there. But my true passion is actually in making art. And I have a creative company called CreateCo Studios, and I get to work with a large variety of clients doing theme spaces for children's areas and churches and doctors' offices and things like that. Museum exhibits, stage production props, retail and holiday decor and things like that. I get to work with a wide variety of clients, and I do a lot of mural work as well. Some of my recent projects, I did a project with the Sam Noble Museum of Natural History that's at the Will Rogers World Airport. And then I recently, last spring, did a project with the city of Oklahoma City at their new health and wellness center that's part of their MAPS project. One of the things I really like to do whenever I approach a work of art is to really try to transform the space to give that visitor a transformative experience when they're with the work. So the work that's up here right now is the work that I did for the Health and Wellness Center at that's on Rockwell down here as part of the MAPS project. And this one actually has three-dimensional elements, so the turtles are actually coming off of the wall. This is in their pool area, so it's an underwater scene, and you can see as you're in the pool, you kind of get this otherworldly experience as you're swimming with the turtles. I get to work a lot with Myriad Botanical Gardens. I've worked with them for about 5 years now. I do about 3 projects with them a year. And this is actually an interactive piece that I did with them. They have, every summer, they have a summer festival, and they theme their children's area based on a book. And this is an obstacle course that's based on the Hungry Caterpillar, and the kids can crawl through the different things that the caterpillar got to eat there. This is a backdrop that I did for the Chickasaw Cultural Center. I've done several projects for them as well, and then this is for their Warrior Wall, so it's a Veterans Memorial, and they have different figures that they place in front of that. This is another three-dimensional mural that I did. This one was sponsored by Google. It's on Western. It's at 71st and Western. This one's called Wilderness on Western. And I do a lot of projects with Putnam City Schools. I get to work with the kids. I actually get to paint murals with the kids at the schools. This is a project that I did at Overholscher Elementary. This one's done on panels and has three-dimensional elements that are incorporated with it as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I thought about before I approached the Bethany project, because it's a unique space. And it's also in a library, and those are some of the things. I really wanted to focus on the fact that it was a library. A library is a gathering place for community, and it's a welcoming place, and it should be a place that has some positive vibes to it, and it's a fun place to be. And the artwork needs to be something that's enjoyed by people of all ages, from kids to adults to seniors. Everybody should get something out of the artwork. And the other unique aspect of this particular area was that the mural it started 12 feet above, and it was 65 feet across. So the one thing that I really thought of was, how can I make this an engaging or interactive artwork? So my idea was to pair historic Route 66 signage and take that and combine it with classic literature, characters, and places. For instance, taking something like the White Well Motel. So you're taking like a vintage motel signage and then pairing it with a well, and which ties into the book Moby Dick. And I'll give you a close-up here. So you can see we have the White Well Motel, and then as we go across, the other idea was that as you're walking by the mural, it's almost that you're driving in your car on a road trip, and you're looking out the window, And as you pass by back and forth, it's almost as these signs are just kind of passing you by. And the title of the mural itself is called Road Trip. So as we go through here, you can see some of the different book titles that we're referencing, trying to pick classic literature elements so that it's a timeless thing that's never going to go old. 20 years from now, it still will be timely for people. So we have Peter Pan there. We also have Jack and the Beanstalk. We have Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, King Arthur, Robin Hood, Dr. Seuss, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Treasure Island. And we have the Metropolitan Library logo in there as well. We have Don Quixote, we have Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, we have 1984 and Goodnight Moon. So there's lots of different classic literature elements throughout. And you can see as I go back here, it's almost like a little panoramic as you're driving through. The clouds are purple, Bethany Bronco purple. So one of the things that I like to do with those clouds was to have something that kind of went all the way through the mural, that kind of tied it together, give it some nice unity throughout the piece. So because it is so long, you want to have elements that are throughout the piece that are kind of remind you about the beginning as well. And some of the different signage that you'll see there will actually, because it's such a large space in the room that the mural's in, you'll actually be able to see nice, big, broad, and bold shapes from the back of the room as well. So the particular mural, this one, will actually be done on birch panels. So it's about 17 panels they'll be cut down. They'll be 6.5 feet, a little over 3.5 wide. The panels will be CNC cut, and then they'll be pre-drilled, so they'll be painted in studio and then installed on site. They'll be sealed with a marine sealer, so that'll give it a UV protectant so that you won't have any color fade on the mural. And then the sealer also aids in maintaining the work. It's really maintenance free, which was one of the things that the library really wanted, was to have something that was maintenance free, but just a little bit of dusting and the sealer will help with that. You guys have any questions about anything?
And I will mention that Nick's work will be funded by the Bethany Improvement Foundation Library Fund. They have collected the money over the years, mostly from foundation donations. And so this was something that they wanted to provide the funding for it. So this will be a gift to the community. It doesn't come from the bond fund. Any questions for Nick or for Scott from the council?
I've got one. What city is La Mancha?
That's
Yeah.
from Don Quixote.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's another nice thing. If there's something, a reference in there that you don't know, you can research that and find out a little bit more about it. So for young readers that are coming in, there may be something up there that they can ask a question to a librarian. They can direct them, hey, this is the book that's referencing, and that just kind of spurs them to learn more about what's up there. So it's another way of engaging someone into the artwork.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
As chair of the library committee, I would like to move our adoption approval of these two pieces of art so the artists can get started on them for installation in the new library. And as you've all noticed, it's going up and it's exciting.
I'll second that.
So items 2 and 3, do I have a motion and a second for approval so these artists can get started on this, which are?
I made the motion as a committee motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. think these are exciting. I'm looking forward to it. This is great. Item 4, to receive a report from Planning and Zoning Commission on Library Playground Project. Do I have a report?
The action was, I'm sorry, the action was actually tabled by the Planning and Zoning for the February 15th. They had requested that some changes be made to the actual design of the park, and I believe that the primary change was what they call the reading room be moved away from the street, actually to a different side of the park, and that I saw a drawing today that had already been, they've already changed that, and so if anybody on the council would like to see a picture of that, just yell at me and I will send you a copy of the drawing in email. But that is rescheduled for February 15th.
Okay. Item 5 is approval of ordinance number 1953, amending ordinance number 1951 on reading by title only. Item A is approval of ordinance number 1953 on reading by title only.
So moved. Second.
Please cast your votes.
This is an ordinance amending ordinance 1951, adopted on December 19th, 2017, pertaining to tax increment district number 1, to correct the scrivener's error in the legal description of the property included in the assessment district and substituting the correct legal description for the project area and declaring an emergency. What happened here, the legal description that was in the prior ordinance was taken from the deed where the property was transferred to the developer, but there was a subsequent correction deed filed. This actually reduces the size of the area involved. It actually included, in the first ordinance, included part of the property which is east of the canal area, and that should not have been included because that's not owned by the developer. This ordinance has 2 enacting sections and a separate section 3, the emergency clause. I would recommend adoption of the emergency clause so that we can get the county assessor to certify the appraised value of the property, assessed value of the property as required.
I make a motion to approve the ordinance and the emergency clause.
Actually, you'll need to have, the first motion should be sections 1 through 2.
I would make a motion to approve sections 1 through 2.
I second it.
Please cast your votes. And C, the emergency section. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Please cast your votes. Item 6, approval of purchase of 2 new Freightliner business class M2 Leach 2R 220-yard capacity Packer trucks and 4 semi-automated conversion packages for existing trucks to be purchased from J&R Equipment Company through Oklahoma Central Purchasing.
I've got some questions, Mr. Mayor. Go
I
ahead,
do too.
Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Last meeting, we discussed this. What I had asked for was a pat on the back, a let's go, let's get this done, it's time. This has all been budgeted in last year's budget. We did a 10-year study on this. And, I mean, we've gone over as much as we can go over on this, and I'm ready to answer questions, I think, as much as I can.
I would like a presentation of what it looks like, you know, how it works. I mean, does it look like the old garbage trucks exactly, only prettier?
If I can tell this without actual pictures, it looks like the old garbage trucks, only prettier, except that instead of having little trash cans that roll around in the street when the wind blows, this has the bigger trash cans that have the two wheels, and what will happen is a solid waste worker will pick them up, well, let me rephrase that. We'll grab them, roll them over to the back, put them up against the truck will raise them, the truck will raise them up and dump them in the back, put them back down, and the worker will push them back over. The worker does not actually have to pick them up, which will reduce the number of injuries that are our number one cause of workers' compensation complaints right now, or injuries right now. They look the same. They are not the side load trucks like Oklahoma City has, which Oklahoma City is not 100% that way. They have the other trucks also.
But there's something different at the back that lets you pick up
Yeah, there's
the bin, right?
there's like a lift mechanism in the back, yes.
Okay.
That's the semi-automatic conversion packages.
Yes, that is the semi-automatic conversion package.
The two new trucks already have those on them. These are the four already gone.
Right. The four
Trucks
already
we
go
already
on
have.
trucks that we currently already own.
Are we going to repaint them or do something to spiffy them up?
Well, I hope we pressure wash them and clean them up.
They need more than water.
Well,
They're garbage trucks.
yeah. I'd love to take them down and get them all spray painted and cleaned up, and then 2 days later, we're not gonna know they were spray painted and cleaned up, but we'll do our best.
Mr. Harsman, can you paint them purple? Would that be okay?
No.
No.
Palmer wants to paint everything purple.
Did we approve the automatic trucks last year instead of these
No,
semi-automatic?
I think we approved an amount of money.
We
last
approved
year.
an amount of money.
Yeah, we did not approve a method last year. We approved an amount of money.
Well, that's, I thought we approved the method that
No,
we were gonna go to.
No.
They were doing research to see if that was gonna work or what was gonna work.
Then this is worked out so it will serve the whole of Bethany, not the part of
This will
Bethany.
serve the whole community, not just the southern half. Right.
Thank you.
I've got a question, and we were just discussing it over here a little bit, is there's entire equipment companies based on pre-negotiated prices, whether it's state bid contracts or central purchasing, or, I mean, what would it hurt to get a few other prices than just put it up to just buy from a pre-negotiated state contract?
Well, because pre-negotiated state contracts are already done that way. The state already runs those prices. They already go out for bids. They're just saving us the time of doing that.
But
They're
there's
saving us a month to go out to bids. If we did that right now, we would be another month, and we are already, I mean, again, this is a month later than I planned on being able to do it. I'd actually planned on doing it several months ago, and it didn't work out. And but the state contract is based on low bid. That's why they have the state contract.
That's where we disagree, because I know entire companies, and I don't want to name names, but there's people in this room that have formed their companies based on things like this, because if you put it out to bid, they can undercut the state contract by 25, even 50% sometimes, depending on how hungry they are at the time. I just don't see the problem. I don't understand the rush either. Why, what would
Well,
it
the
hurt
rush,
to get?
the rush involves the amount of money that we're spending on a weekly basis to keep the trucks that we have, some of our trucks going right now, because we can't keep them going forever on a wish. I mean, we were having to pay weekly, and we've actually had to go and rent trucks from outside agencies to have enough to pick up the solid waste for Bethany. We don't have enough trucks to do the job right now.
Well, that sounds like a maintenance issue that somebody should have taken care of. I mean, if we
Well,
let it get
it's
so
a
low.
maintenance issue because the trucks are breaking down, because they've outlived their usefulness. We should have replaced them in July or August when we passed the budget, when we kind of planned on doing this.
I just don't see the harm as in Missouri, show me, what's wrong with getting some other prices? I don't see the problem. If it's such a good deal, I don't see the problem in getting other prices, which the next item is gonna be the same question. There's like I said, entire companies based on that.
Well, and that's what, again, with the second one, the company that we are going with is an organization based on getting the lowest price available for products for governments and education.
But
And
you're aware those are cut every day by people, undercut, prices are undercut
I
by those
realize
every day.
that.
We've done it, I think, with a police car not too long ago. I mean, there are better deals out there sometimes there's not, but it doesn't have to be that big of a deal, I don't think, to get a few extra prices.
I just wish we'd have discussed this when we brought this up.
If
I
those people
agree.
have such good deals, why aren't they on the bid sheets?
I agree, that's a good question. I see Freightliner, and I mean, the biggest Freightliner dealer in the entire world was in Bethany, Oklahoma until last year. I mean, I don't see his company's name on here.
Excuse me, they would have placed a bid into the state. That's how,
Well, they also do individual bids too. They have salesmen, there's different types of, this is not for bidding. This is just an annual contract that people can go buy from with getting around the bidding process. That's all that these are, is to get around the bidding process. Is that not correct? So you don't have to bid. You can choose to use a state contract if you don't want to bid, or you can put things out to bid.
Well, it streamlines the process, and it's already been vetted.
Well, what's wrong with saying, show me? I mean, if that's great, but why not just, if
You
we're
could say
saving so
that.
much money, what would it hurt to show somebody come in $1 million higher?
Mr.
It
Shire.
leads me to ask the question, that do you have any bids in your pocket that show that we can buy them less on the open market than we can
I do not.
J&R equipment? I know we have used J&R equipment for years. They're kind of locally located here in this particular area. They're less than 5 miles from the city.
And I'm not taking any away from General Equipment. They've been around
J&R
forever,
equipment
south of I-40, they're a great company.
and the people that own J&R equipment are Bethany residents.
I'm not taking any away from them. I'm just saying if it's such a good deal, what's wrong with proving it?
How do we know it's such a good deal? And what are our time constraints on this?
Oh,
I've
Sooner
been,
we
I've
get
been
it
looking
started,
at the
the
cost
sooner
of
we
what
don't have to
it's been
chase trash
costing us
cans
to
down
keep
the street.
trucks. And I saw some bids for, nearly $25,000 to buy parts to put garbage trucks back in service this week.
Yeah, we're spending a
We're
large
spending-
amount of money to keep
And,
trash
and
trucks going.
this should not have happened, but it did happen. And
We were
should-
told
we
in the
should have-
last-
We should have pressed ahead on this 6 months ago.
We were
didn't do
told,
it.
we were told in the report that it would take 90 days, is that was correct? From the time we vote and the order is placed before we get a truck. Is that still on
Believe so.
target?
Yes.
Do you off
It's
the top
90
of your
days
head,
from
do
the time of placing an order to receiving a truck. 90 days.
That's what Mr. Buchanan said last time with the report.
off the top of your head, would you happen to have any idea of what we're spending?
No, I don't have the
Okay,
numbers.
I understand. It gets pretty tight.
And Dave, our Public Works Director went home ill today also. He would have a much better chance than I do. But I know I sign off on large amounts of repair work on sanitation trucks.
We don't have any actual dollar amounts
For,
trucks, carts. I looked in last meeting's minutes.
the actual trucks, there'll be two new trucks at $215,000 a piece, or $430 for the two. The conversions are actually, there's four at $15,000 a piece, at $60,000. So there's actually the $215,000 includes the truck and the conversion package.
Okay.
And then
That's
the
all.
poly carts run at $50.25 a piece, and we're actually asking for 11,890, but I don't think they're gonna buy that many at the beginning.
Mr. Harsman, correct me if I'm wrong, did we budget 290 each? Wasn't that the budgeted amount?
We budgeted 580.
So 290 times
Right.
two.
And we
Yeah, we
budgeted
budgeted for those trucks, top of the wall, yeah.
And we budgeted for 70,000 for conversion kits. That was a part of the budget, actually, conversion kits.
I've got one other question. There's a state contract price for everything we use. Why are we picking and choosing when to use a state contract or not? There's a state contract for paper clips. That's, I don't wanna name company names, but I just know that there are salesmen out there licking their chops every time they hear a pre-negotiated price, because they know they can undercut it and still make tons of money.
Well, then I would suggest that you, next time you talk with those people, you say you should get on the state bidding forms and just see how good you really are.
Well, that's just it. There's an if you're putting a state bid out, that's for anybody can just place an order, put a PO in, versus putting it out for bid for a single city contract. And I'm not saying anything against J&R, it's a great company. I'm just saying if it's such a good deal, before we drop millions of dollars here, or $1 million.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of item number 6 on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Does anybody else have any other comments?
I volunteered for the recycling committee, I just want you to know.
We were gonna bring that up, Dr. Harrison.
You're actually the chairman of the committee.
And member.
As soon as the library's done.
Please cast your votes. Item 7 is authorization of staff to purchase up to 12,000 polycarts through interlocal cooperative purchasing agreement with U.S. Communities. Do I have a motion or discussion?
How many current trash customers do we have that do not have dumpsters?
Once again, I am just going off of memory, but I believe it was 6,700, something along those lines.
So we're planning on a cart, 1.5 carts per home.
The idea was that we would go with one cart per home and have more available for those who requested a second. And then have a third one eventually available, am I correct? Yeah, have a third one available for those who wanted to rent one from the city. But I think that people will discover that these carts are so much bigger, and that one is going to be a lot. And I think we could get one out and let people try it. And when they see, oh yeah, that's gonna take care of my family, or my wife and I, or whatever, then they won't need the second one, and we'll have plenty. Again, we're gonna start with buying what we need and then be able to go back and buy more.
And are we gonna have available a half size for elderly people who can still take out their own trash, but the large one may be too large for them to handle?
We are looking into a smaller size that will be available, with exceptions that it is going to have to be someone who is in need.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I'm working on an ordinance also that will provide, if there's not a member of the household able to take the can to the street, that alternative arrangements will be made, so.
And
Mr. Heisman, that's already done to some extent, correct? The public work, I mean, they have a list of people who
Right.
need assistance,
Yeah.
and that's
And
provided.
that's the good thing about this system is if you're already, I mean, if you can't get the can to the street and Public Works already goes to your house and picks it up and takes it and dumps it and brings it back, this can just makes it easier on them to do it, basically, and that won't change for you or for your relative who can't do it.
I'd like to go ahead.
We would also apply or come up with rules for proper usage of the can to the extent
Right,
that would
yeah,
be
that
very
would-
similar to what Oklahoma City has. They limit the of what trash could be put in there, with the exception of, chemicals and paint and things like
Right.
that. That would all be established and set up before we implement this citywide.
Certainly, that's what staff and council will be doing prior to the implementation. That's what we'll be using this period before we actually get everything going to do.
It's my understanding that the Public Relations Department is gonna come up with some statement on behalf of the city related to those new improvements.
Yes, yeah, we've got a campaign started already.
Okay.
Webpage, the whole, we're
Well, my
gonna make
concern,
this easy on people.
my concern was that I wanted the residents to be aware of what's coming, and then give them as much advanced notice as to the change, so that they will understand what's happening, why it's happening, when it's gonna happen, and then where it will affect them
Right.
directly. So
Yeah, our
that's a
biggest-
difficult process, but I think it can be handled in a way that everybody's needs are met.
Right. The biggest problem we have right now is we're just not sure on the dates. And so we can still make people understand how this is really going to help you out, but we just can't say these are the dates when things are gonna start happening.
Well, and the other issue is, we now have trash pickup twice a week. This would be once a week.
This would be once a week.
Once a week with trash receptacles that are 3 times or 4
Right.
times the size of the current capacity. Is that right?
Yeah. And what I found in my own household is, so I have, generally on Monday, we have a bigger trash pickup, and then on Thursday, I take out a bag and drop it. I mean, or one can that's got one bag in it. I mean, and so I think people are gonna find that one of the poly carts will probably be enough, and if you need, we'll have another one.
Mr. Moore, did you have a comment?
I did. I just wanted to restate that, because that's one of the major concerns of, there's a lot of elderly people in Bethany.
Right.
And if we are currently going and helping them with their trash, we're gonna continue that.
Right.
But also, if they're using a 30-gallon metal can and they're dragging that to the street, the tilting of these things should make it easier on them anyways to get
Right,
it to
the
the
wheel,
street.
the rolling of the wheels has got to be easier than picking up one of those metal cans.
But then the other question I had was about size. I'll forego my competitive bidding
Thank
question to the 2 salesmen who texted me asking me about it. But if these cans are 95 gallons, is that right?
90,
Roughly.
96, I think. Yeah.
But we're in the raking leaf season, and we're gonna be into the spring grass clipping season. And we're currently picking up to, I'm told, 9 cubic yards per load per household.
Right.
And that could be, the back of the dumpster holds 3 cubic yards, and it can be cycled 3 times per household before they move on, which could be, say, 100 trash bags. So we're gonna get rid of that business. We're gonna get out of that business, I guess.
I hope.
Well, I mean, is trash like gonna be limited to one, I hate to say Big Blue like Oklahoma City says, and then 100 trash bags, or is it just what you can fit into the 1 or 2
Well,
cans?
again, that's where we're going to call on council to help, and this is a policy decision on what council wants to do.
We talked about certain number of, they could purchase bags like at Ace or other places. I know that's been discussed at one point or another. But I think that's something that we have to decide.
We cut down our load a lot we're doing we're paying a lot of dump fees right now for a lot of commercial people that are putting their, right now, leaves out up to 18 or 9 cubic yards twice a week is 18 cubic yards. That's 200 trash bags.
It will cut down on the landscaping crews that also put their
Right.
bags out and then let the city fund their dumping their clippings, so.
We need to come out pretty quick with
I
some type of
have,
standard.
I have a question. Could you put together some sort of a paper to show the city council what we're talking about changing on the trash pickups? Because this is a 40-year change. I mean, it's not something that most people that ever lived in Bethany understand. And you know, you were just talking about they were going to sell paper bags or something or other for people to pick up their own yard waste in. Is going to cost them a certain amount of money. And that's what I'd like to know. I have been getting a little feedback from that.
Well, that's just the possibility of, I mean, that basically makes those who are the users the responsible payers. And
That's
those
true.
who don't have a lot of trees and have to pick up a lot of leaves, then they're not responsible to help pay for it. We also have options like we now have big trash pickup 4 times a year that we never had before. We try to time the possibility of timing a big trash pickup during peak leaf and season. I mean, there's just various things we can talk about. And I mean, there's no need to talk about it if we don't have the trucks to do the work. So now we can have the trucks do the work. Now we can make the policies, and now we can make this work.
And I would like a narrative on this.
Okay?
Well, Mr. Harsman, ultimately, it's the input from the residents related to the best way to implement this new trash system.
Right.
So once we ask for their input, then they have an opportunity to express their concerns and ensure that those needs are being met in a way that's responsive to the residents and allows the city to implement the new trash pickup system.
Exactly.
So do I have a motion for item 7?
I have another question.
You have another question?
Is there a cost difference that we know about now? Is there going to be a charge for the bins, whatever they're called? Is there a change in price due to once a week versus twice a week? Anything else that's
Are we
planned?
talking-
Because that will be the first question.
Are you
How's
talking
it
about
going to affect
increasing
my,
the price to the customer?
to the customer?
No, we have not, as of right now, we have not discussed an increase in the price to the customer.
Why don't you say that again?
As of right now, we have not discussed a price increase to the customer. What we may increase in cost in the equipment, we are hoping to decrease the cost in dump fees, in equipment costs, and in just the idea that we're not picking up twice a week anymore, we're doing it once a week. And so, you know, you're hoping that gasoline costs go down. Now, I won't say that you're never going to have increased costs, and I mean, costs go up over time, so, but that's not our plan. No, we're not doing this so we can raise costs, no.
So is everybody satisfied with their questions, and do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve item number 7.
Does color
Do I have a
matter
second?
other than price?
About number
I'll
6.
second.
Please cast your
Go for
votes.
6.
Is it 6 or 7?
No, it's,
It's 7.
7.
7.
did we decide a color?
It's not purple.
Oh, that's what Mr. Palmer said.
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor, we need to talk about that.
Actually, I
think-
saw.
If I don't recognize you, we're not talking.
I saw a picture the other day of some that were like a kind of, and I give it a chance, kind of a bright yellow color. They were easy to see. You didn't run into them in the middle of the night. And, I mean, there's lots of options that we need to look at.
And
So
you could
lots
put a
of reasons.
23 on them.
I would love to have a T-shirt that would have some kind of PR campaign that we can promote through the community related to the acceptable color for the trash receptacle.
Not gonna happen. Okay, please cast your votes.
Finally, item 8 is call to the public. If there's anyone that would like to address the council, please state your name and address after stepping to the microphone and address the council as a whole, and you will have 3 minutes. Is there anybody who would like to speak?
I'm Beth Mikola, 7106 Northwest 44th Street. I've been a Bethany resident and homeowner for 30 years. And one of the things I wanted to start with was thanking the council members that talked about curbside recycling last meeting. It's something that's, I think Bethany needs to do very soon.
No, she's already, she has been running the committee for the last several months. She is a volunteer for Bethany.
For me, recycling is a moral responsibility, and I want to be a steward of nature, protect animals and people and the environment. And I also don't want to have anybody pay for my recycling to go to a landfill. I was very happy 10 years ago to find out that War Acres had a recycling program that I could participate in. And so I've been going there. And about 2 years ago, I decided to volunteer to work there. And as you can imagine, being out 6 hours, one weekend a month, out in the elements, no matter, this is year round, is kind of tough work. And plus, when I get home, my dog really sniffs my jeans. I think she smells beer and all kinds of things. But anyway, one of the rewards of that is seeing people that are very dedicated to recycling. These people keep the things, the recyclables, in their homes and bring them once a month. They bring them and they come out in the weather and do these things too. So that has been very rewarding, and I've been able to meet a lot of people that are very gung-ho on recycling. But all of us recognize that we have neighbors that would recycle if it was a little bit easier. And so that's why we really want curbside recycling, because we think we would get a much higher participation, and all of us would be helping the environment. This fall, some concerned citizens in Bethany and War Acres got together and wanted to work for curbside recycling. We have talked with Republic Services, with their regional sales manager, Crystal Griffith, and we have discovered that if the cities of War Acres and Bethany would work together, that they would be able to get a special rate. Now, what this would mean is, according to her, that we would both do a pro forma invoice for our own cities at the same time. We'd have our own contracts, and as long as each city took advantage of the contract, went through with the contract, then they would be able to give us a good rate because our cities are close together. Republic would have a curbside pickup every other week, and they have an education program. Is that my time?
Yeah, but you can finish your thought.
Okay. So I would really like to see that. And also, I need to mention that we do have a Facebook page, and we've been trying to gauge community interest, and it's Bethany War Acres Recycling Coalition. So as of this morning, we had 90 likes on that page. We've only been able to advertise through our War Acres Recycling. I also have a little sheet talking about the War Acres program and some publicity on recycling. And I've got one print copy in the interest of the environment. Now, I could give it to the mayor if he would like it, and I'll be happy to email it to anybody else who's interested.
Thank you.
Please send it to the rest of us. That link could also go on the city webpage, which would be great.
Beth, if you'll send that, you have my email. If
Yes.
you send that to me, I'll.
Everybody up here, I will send it to.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council? Item 9 is the city attorney's report.
The only item I had, I've been working almost a year now on the easements for the sewer replacement between Central and College. And we've asked those people to voluntarily dedicate those easements with no charge to the city. And I can report the good news is, I believe we have 13. It's taken this long to get 13, but we have 3 holdouts. And I want you to be thinking about how you want to deal with that. And I'll send out an email reminder to you. And I think at this point, the options are probably to direct the filing of condemnation against those property owners for the easements, or to forget the project. And I think those are the only options at this point.
Are they holdouts as in they're refusing to do it, or we can't find them, or some of each?
2 of them have refused. The 3rd one has not responded to 5 letters and 4 voicemail messages. So whether that's a refusal or can't find, they live out of town, but they do own 5 properties in Bethany, at Old Town Bethany. So I can't really, most of the ones that, 2 of the 3 are rental properties, the other one is owner occupied. But I'll send you an email reminder, but that project's been on the burner long enough, and we need to either finish it or lay it to rest, one of the 2.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, what are the other options? I know we can condemn it, which I don't think we want to go up and do that. What are one of the other options? Pay them to buy a
Well,
strip
no
of
one
land?
has said that money's an object, they just won't sign. I mean, I'm not anybody
Well,
say,
then-
give me
then if-
$500 and I'll do it.
Me being a plumber for 50 years, I know if you don't have a place to end the sewer, you've got a real problem. So I
Well,
would.
these people, unfortunately, are tied to the sewer that runs down Central, so they don't need this.
They don't
This
need
doesn't
it.
serve them.
Well, you know,
It's in their backyard, and they're tied to the sewer in their front yard.
okay, so then what we need to do is we just need to walk away from this project and put the money someplace else.
Well, that's for the council to decide.
Well, that's one of the options, right?
That is an
I
option,
would like you to put that option in your letter.
okay?
Item 10 is the city manager's report.
I just have, sorry, I have a couple things. I would like to introduce Amanda McClellan. Please stand up, Amanda. Amanda is our Director of Planning and Community Development. She started yesterday. Give her a little time to get on her feet, and she is gonna be under Steve's tutelage, and I'm helping her a little bit, and she's gonna do a great job. She really wants to do a good job, and she's gonna, I think she'll do very well. So, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate it.
Welcome aboard.
Last meeting, Councilman Shirey requested a police activity report, and Chief Cole got me that report, and then after I looked at it, I kind of ran across some problems with it, so I did not get it out. But my question to the council is exactly how detailed do we want this report to be? Do we actually just want a summary of like area and crimes that occurred in the area? Is that what we're looking for?
So this is different from the BPD report that the chief sends out every week or so?
Who requested it, Mr. Shirey?
Mr. Shirey?
Yes,
I thought that what was asked for was a comparison of the number of citations written
Was that what we?
Yes, that was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we can take care of that
versus
really
the
easy.
period a year
You know,
ago
I
or
don't want
something.
any deep, dark secrets,
Okay.
but it's just that
Well, that's-
there's been a major shift in
Okay.
what we're doing in our courts. And I would like to know the reason why.
Okay. I misunderstood what you wanted. Okay, glad we cleared that up. Questions have been asked about the Beaver Street repaving project or street construction project. We are going to have a special meeting, and those of you who, this is for the council, For those of you who are interested, it will be prior to next Tuesday, or 2 weeks ago, the next council meeting on February 20th. It will be at 6 o'clock, be prior to that council meeting. It will be an informational meeting, and basically what I want is Mr. Caton to get up and give us some information about what's going on and what the city is interested in doing. As you recall, a couple months ago, the Children's Center had information on possibilities, and I would like to give city possibilities also. I would like to also tell you that on February 28th, end of the month, at 6:30, which I apologize is a Wednesday, but we will have our first budget meeting for the council. I don't particularly like to have Wednesday meetings, but if you looked at the schedule between the other committees, you would see that it's either going to be on the weekends or on Wednesdays. And I'm sorry, I don't like to do weekends. That's when we're off.
How
So-
long a meeting is it to be?
What?
How long? 6:30,
Uh,
7:30, 8:30?
I would like it to start at 6:30. How long it lasts, all depends on the council.
Is this the one and only budget meeting,
No,
or is it
no,
the
we
first
will
in a
have more.
series? That's what
Yeah,
I
This is
thought.
basically so I can lay down kind of how I would like to do it this year, and just cover some other topics to get it started, and then I would like the council's topics on what you would like to see. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Item 11, council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. And tonight, let's start down with Councilmember Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will have a traffic committee, and we were in the process of scheduling that. I think we have some selected council members who will participate. So for the public's benefit, that is a committee that was in place at some point, but now we're going to reestablish that. We will look into parking and define our area, and then report back to the city council and the public as well. So I'm hopeful that we'll have an outlet for residents to come and discuss those issues in their neighborhood. That has not been available, so we will have that availability, and the residents will be able to attend the meetings and talk to us, and we can make recommendations to the city council. With that, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I will say that those members, council members on the traffic committee is Mr. Palmer, Mr. Todd, Mr. Herron, and Mr. Shirey. And I'll leave it up to you guys to schedule a meeting and get it going at your convenience.
And that will include the one-ways, right?
Absolutely.
Yay.
Mrs. Harris?
I want to say that I love the lights that have been left on 39th Street. It always looks so barren after Christmas, so that's a nice addition, and I commend whoever came up with that idea. And Marcia Feisel is here tonight, and she's responsible with the Bethany Improvement Foundation for the Merry Winter signs, and I think they've just added a lot to our winter atmosphere. After Christmas, they're still up for a while, and they put up the banners and are doing the signs, and those are great all over the community. So, and I appreciate just seeing a lot of friends in the audience tonight. I know you came to see Scott, but it's still good to see you here. Thank you.
Mr. Todd?
I appreciate the efforts for the recycling program, and I commend those, but I presume the ultimate effort is to improve the environment. So with that, I'm going to throw a new wrinkle in our decision tonight about getting the garbage trucks. We didn't talk about what's the possibility of having those converted to natural gas so they'll be environmentally friendly. And so is that an option, or is that a totally different issue? So that's just something to throw out on the floor.
Something to look at, for sure.
Thankfully, we already voted that in, so we don't have to go all the way back and start that discussion over again. But I do think it's something we should look at. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize to the people that did want to bid on these things and wanted to talk about it, but we're not able to. There'll be other opportunities. And on the the artwork, it all looks great, and I've already had 2 requests for both statues. They would like to buy miniature statues of both. So, and I would also like to see what it would take to move ahead and get some coins to push the idea, to give contributors coins. Because I think that's a great idea, if we decide to go ahead with it, which I think we will. But it's just hitting now, and it's already a home run as far as I can tell. And thank Peter Plank for everything he does. He grabs elderly people and jumps out of airplanes over France.
But he does it nicely.
Yeah. Just his work, the work he does is it's incredible. Anyways, thank you.
Mr. Herron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing tonight.
Mr. McCutcheon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott, I'd like to thank you for coming tonight and doing that again. I had the privilege of seeing it one other time, and he just really outdid himself tonight. Nick, thank you for coming. Appreciate your presentation and helping Bethany out. I ran into your nephew, Dustin, the other day, and he gives his full approval for you to make the sculpture.
Mr. McCutcheon, I would like to thank you because you were the one that held the sculpture for a period of time. Thank you for not breaking that before this evening. Mr. Shirey?
Yes, I would like to congratulate Mr. Moore on making it back tonight. I hope his recovery is going well. And I was very concerned about it because he was beginning to bump the allotted number of misses we could have at one time, and I don't think we could do without him on this council and the way he puts things, and he kind of keeps us straight, and I'm very happy to have him back. Now you can go for another 4 weeks or so and come back again.
I made him come tonight because we knew you were counting those nickels.
Hey, you know, that used to be part of our game up here, is to count and make absolutely sure that nobody got too many absences, because your people that you represent absolutely need you here to represent them, because there is 20,000 people in the city of Bethany, and they need all be represented by somebody that will speak their mind and his mind. I'm very happy to have that. This was a very a very good council meeting for me. I learned a lot of things. I think we need to probably get a little more input or a little more output from the city manager on what's going on, and not that much, but there's some things in there that I don't pick up on as well as I should. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to publicly state that I look forward to the day I don't have to swerve around trash cans in the street or drag them up, including my own. Congratulations to the city employees who received the service awards tonight. Several people I'd like to thank. Mr. Templin, thank you for being here tonight and leading us in the pledge, and your daughter for bringing you over. Also want to thank our artists and the committee members that participated in selecting the art for the library. Thank you very much. And family members, your support too. Tonight we have 3 young men from Troop 569. They endured the entire meeting, and they're working on communications merit badge, and I think they're going to have a visit, if they haven't already, with our city engineer about our water system and learn a little bit more about that. So thanks for coming, Scouts. I have already told you that I have an Eagle Scout, and I was a Scoutmaster for many years, and just thanks for being involved. Before we have our next council meeting, we will have the start of Bethany Restaurant Week. And in the February 14th Oklahoma Gazette, there will be a pull-out section that will list all of the participating restaurants. All of those will make a contribution to the Children's Center. So between the 19th and I think it's the 25th of February, go out and enjoy some of those Bethany restaurants. There's breakfast, lunch, and dinner available. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
if I could, I've got one thing. Mr. Shirey touched on it, but we've got a fairly new council, and Dr. Harris asked me, why do people come by and talk to you or talk to KP so much or talk to Mr. Shirey? It's because we grew up here. It's part of the deal. The other happens to be location. I'm on 23rd Street, and people whip in there and feel free to talk to me. But this room is available 24/7, and I did not steal the idea. Randy Lunster is the first one I knew that came up with it. It was probably Peter Plank before him. But if you're not talking to your constituents every day, then you're not doing your job. And if you're not talking to them, call a city hall meeting, a town hall meeting. Have it right here in this room. If you're worried about too many council people showing up, just make it a special meeting so everybody can show up if they want to. But you should be interacting with your voters, the people that voted you in office. So you don't have to guess. It's not about what you think. It's about what they think. Because if you call a town hall meeting, they will show up and they will let you know, good, bad, or ugly. But if you want to know if you're doing what the citizens want, you should be holding town hall meetings right here in this room or anywhere you want to hold them. But this room is available anytime anybody wants to hold town hall meetings for their constituents.
Fantastic. I would like to say that one of the things Mr. Moore had mentioned when he spoke about the two sculptures or statues, some of you may not know what the other one is because you're looking at that one. But prior to this council meeting, we had a specially called meeting where I just got to share a vision or a dream that I've had of honoring our veterans and our military on a piece of property just west of here. And Scott has dreamed up and created a rendering of something for the city of Bethany that we just proposed to everybody, and it will be something that will be individual and corporate sponsored. It won't be something the city is funding, but it is completely doable, and I know for a fact it will inspire everyone, and it will draw a lot of attention to the city of Bethany because I promise you no one else has one, anything like this, and so I am excited about that, and we'll be getting out information about that later. Also, on Valentine's Day will be the 1-year anniversary of my election and other council members' election, and I will not be driving around town with my wife looking at the numbers on the windows seeing who won the election. I will be on a date with my wife, I can promise you. But I say that to say that we are about to sit down and film a State of the City address video and let everybody know kind of things we've been working on, things that are going on, and things you can be looking forward to. And so that'll be coming. Be watching for that on social media and on Cox Channel 20 and anywhere else that we can possibly put that. Also, I have somebody had asked me to mention this. Our search for a new city manager, the search committee is SRG. They are the ones that did the last search for our former city manager. And that is beginning at the end of this week, where they will be showing up here and interviewing council members. I will let you know that because that was in a 2-year time period, that it is not a large expense. It is something that, because it was in a 2-year period of the last search, they do relatively free, minus marketing materials or whatever. And so, yeah. And with that, I would like to say that, Mr. Harsman, I think you're doing a fabulous job. And I know you've been in this role before of holding it together. But
I speak for myself, but I think others would agree that you're doing more than just holding it together. You're also taking some of the stuff that we want to move forward and helping us move forward with, so I appreciate that. Having said that this is the 1-year anniversary, I'm still learning how to do things as a mayor. I'm still drinking from a fire hose every single day. But one of the things I would like to try to do personally to try to, and I think we do a pretty good job because we all pretty much get along even when we're not agreeing, but just the flow of the council meetings, there's some questions that I have as to, you know, being recognized before interrupting or speaking over and things of that nature that I think I need to probably get a handle on and figure out, just so we can make this thing run a lot smoother and hopefully a lot quicker so we can still make progress. I also had one question, and that was on the abstaining of votes, and somebody can clarify for me, because I was under the understanding when if we abstain from a vote, you can give a reason and then you abstain from the vote, and also you probably shouldn't, and which didn't happen tonight, but in the past I've seen where people have chimed in on the conversation and then turned right around and abstained from the vote, and I was just kind of wondering what the rules are on that, or
Well,
what the.
you don't really have a policy on that. You certainly could adopt one. The only rule you have is that if you cast a abstaining vote, that's not counted either as a yes or a no. It's just not counted in determining whether the item passed or failed. But there's nothing in your rules that says you have to state a reason for abstaining, nor is there anything in your rules that says you can't participate in the discussion. But the council has adopted rules, and certainly you could add that as a new rule to your council rules.
Okay.
And you
And
know,
it's
if you want to do
probably-
that, let me know, and I'll certainly look at that.
Yeah, I think that's something maybe we as a council could sit down and talk about one of these days and just figure out what we want to do.
Sure.
With that said, item 12 is new business. Do we have any new business this evening?
I think it would be good if we got a copy of those rules we're supposed to be following, and then we could look at revising them.
Can we get a copy of those, you know?
Those are from the charter.
No, they're actually in the ordinance. There's a whole chapter on council rules, and it
Oh,
sets forth some of the things that the mayor's talking about, how about not interrupting the chairman and requesting permission to be heard, and those kind of things. So perhaps it would be wise maybe if you sent that out to the council, excerpted that from the code, and maybe just send it out and let everybody look at it, because it's something that, unless you have a reason to, you don't necessarily review. It has the 3-minute limit and, you know, all those kinds of things.
Well, I just brought that up because the 1-year anniversary, and I've got 3 more to go on this term, and I would like to improve upon how I'm operating and running these meetings. I also would like to say that I think we have an awesome team as far as a council, and we are getting a lot of stuff accomplished, and I'm excited about that, and I hear that every single day. So I don't tell you guys that all the time, but there are a lot of people very pleased with what this council is doing and the city staff. And I called new business, and with no new business, I declare this council meeting adjourned until February 20th, 2018. And with that, I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1, A and B is consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 20th, 2018. With that, I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1, A and B is consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 20th, 2018. With that, I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1A and B is consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 20th, 2018. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We are adjourned.